Hi, I'm AeonAir, and this is a video. Deimos by Hybrid and more. Verified by Doggy, and truly a level like nothing else. I started this level a year ago, right after I stopped making YouTube content, with the idea that now I don't actually have to grind YouTube videos and I can focus my efforts on improving at GD, pushing for a hardest I can be genuinely proud of. I want to go through each and every single individual part on its own, speak a little bit about my experience and what I think about the part, so you can build a picture of how grinding this level truly was. Because I don't think I could put into words or through like a fails compilation what it genuinely felt like playing this. Deimos means a lot to me, and I want to say before anything that I truly love the level. Despite the fact that I'm going to be talking about a lot of frustration, a lot of misery almost, I love this level. And I'm super proud to be able to call it my hardest completion. I would recommend it to anyone any day of the week, pretty much. So let's get into it. First, however, before we get into it, cat debated, lol, XD, sorry for that. Plushies are back in sale. They are currently being produced. There's about 300 of them. Go buy them. I know you want them. Links in the description. Go enjoy the little orange guy. Pock. The first part of the level. It is such an inoffensive part that really doesn't do much more other than drag out time, which in itself isn't really a big deal. I think it's a pleasing part to look at. The song is very calm tone, making it honestly kind of relaxing whenever you inevitably get sent back to the start after making a mistake. However, those dreams are so quickly shattered by Vesp. Vesp is an insane momentum killer. The wave at 5% to begin with, and throughout most of my grind, was at times just an impenetrable wall that at times would just not work. It's an extremely tight gap, and while it does get pretty consistent towards the end, I didn't really die there, like ever. It caused a lot of frustration, and especially early on before I was really able to lock in and really get good at the part, there would be moments where I would straight up just not pass it for 10 to 15 minutes at a time. And while it's really early in the level, you gotta remember what I said. Pock's part is pretty much just there to drag out time. So you're gonna end up spending like 7 seconds, 8 seconds getting there. And when you're getting there thousands and thousands of times, that adds up so quickly. And Wesp, in my opinion, is one of the hardest parts of the level. As someone who generally struggles with wave, it was a huge roadblock throughout most of the grind. Then we get to Isane, followed by Max FS. And I'm gonna cover these two in one. I'm gonna do that for parts that kind of like intertwine a little bit. Because honestly, these two are two of my favorites. They flow together in such a satisfying and fun way that it's genuinely some of the most fun gameplay I've played in a harder extreme demon. And it's tight, it's satisfying, it plays amazingly. I wouldn't really ever die to it towards the end of the grind, which was nice because it was very consistent. Iris, however, is the end of the beginning. And it's the first major choke point of the level. The part itself is similar in pace and feel to Isane and Max. I think it's a great part. I really like it. But then there's this godforsaken stupid wave at 19%, which is a nice little homage to the pain that was Eyeblade in Phobos. And this wave, I'm going to be so real, pure misery at times. On occasion, I would have to end sessions early just because I couldn't pass the wave at all. It requires a CPS that is just slightly above what my hand naturally does without really taking or getting fatigued. So at times I would just have to stop playing because I couldn't pass it at all, which ruined my mood so many times over because it just felt like a slap on the nuts, like a bah, because I could play so good. I could be playing fantastic with the rest of the level and they just have to prematurely end and stop playing because I just couldn't pass this 7 input part that just messed me up. And you got to keep in mind, yes, it's a 19%, but that's 30 seconds into the level. It was a drag, especially because I had to die there a good few times before I would actually realize, oh yeah, I can't play this because my hand isn't working. 30 seconds is a lot of time to spend on like 10 attempts to get there and be like, oh yeah, no, I'm stuck. And I wouldn't get there all of those attempts because you also have the wave at 5%, as I mentioned, which would also be a roadblock, and it would just very frustrating. After Iris, we get to Poly, which is pretty much just a mental test. The part itself is incredibly easy, and there's just this sensation of, hey, don't fuck up now. And it was just like constant reminder that you passed Iris's wave, so dying to Poly was purely a mindset test, really. And whether I got bothered by dying to Poly was a large part of the grind at one point, where if I was dying to Poly a lot and it just wasn't annoying me, I would generally be playing much better. So it was a very quick and easy vibe check almost. It's a very inoffensive part. You would die to it occasionally, but for the most part, it was fine. And then comes Cersa. And I'm gonna be so real, I'm kind of conflicted on Cersa because I love the part, and I, for the longest time, thought it was one of the most fun parts, if not just the most fun part in the whole level. The click patterns are extremely satisfying, and passing it felt so awesome. However, throughout the journey, it soured up quite a bit, and it just kept getting more and more sour, because I would die to the blue orb in the first ship part, where you go like da 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 bam, and you have like this thing and then like a diagonal straight fly. But the worst of all was the ship dip at 26%. This ship dip was the cause of so much genuine frustration, because to me the level doesn't really truly begin until you get to platinum, which is the next part. So dying legitimately within 2-3 clicks of getting to that part, as much as I did, was so awful, because you're dying right before you're getting an attempt, and it happened significantly more than I want to admit. I generally didn't really struggle with it for a long period of time. It was just one of those things that I would just die to like 4 or 5 times in a row, get annoyed at, and then just not die for the rest of the session. But it created this momentum of, ugh, why am I dying to this? And it was frustrating, right? So while I love that part, I think it's super satisfying, super awesome, super fun to play, it was probably the most like skin crawly part, in the sense that I wish I didn't die to it, because I shouldn't. But I did anyway. And then we have Scal. It's a part. And the Platinum. And Platinum is a certified doggy part. This thing is absolutely brutal. And for a while, I felt like it was going to be like the GD equivalent of like climbing the world tree from the bottom to the top for some reason. Where it's just like, it would just be the most insurmountable thing of all time. But like, it just worked. I don't really know how, but towards the last like 2 months of playing Deimos, I just didn't really die to it like at all. I would maybe die to platinum like 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 times ago if I got unlucky per session, but I was passing it like 30, 40 times a day. And I thought I surely had to lose consistency with it occasionally or eventually, because at a point, surely, right? Surely I would die to it more, because this part is impossible, but I just didn't. And towards the end, I'm not gonna lie, it became one of the easiest parts for me, and I don't really know how, because when I look at the level, it's one of the few parts that I look at, I'm like, yeah, that looks impossible. Not in a million years gonna get consistent with it, but it did. It got consistent. I don't know how it happened, but it did. And then we have Lowt, my favorite part visually. The gameplay can be mildly infuriating at times, because you will be dying a lot to the first 2 blue orbs, where you go like, whoop, whoop, you know? Ugh. And you would also die. I would also die a lot to the last UFO click for some reason. I don't really know why that happened. I just died a lot to the UFO click, probably because of like lineup stuff, which was frustrating. But man, this part is so goddamn good. I adore it wholeheartedly. It's incredible. Lowt absolutely cooked. It's such a cool part. The structuring is immaculate. Really fascinating gameplay almost. It doesn't play like anything else I've really played ever before. It's just so cool. It was my favorite part from day one. Favorite part until the entire way through, basically. God, it's so good. And then Yonaka onwards, also known as the drop, is where this experience becomes unbelievably daunting, borderline absurd, and I'm being 100% honest, so dead ass. I got to this part 1,400 times. This part is 50 seconds into the level. It's a really cool part. I really love it. I love the intensity. The shift click at 37%, where you go, where it says death, and like a really cool grotesque voice. Super awesome. I loved it. I think it's so fun. It's such a satisfying part, but I would be lying out my ass if I didn't say I would get really frustrated with this part. Not because it's not difficult, quite the opposite. It's a really hard part, but because it was the part right before where 95% of my experience with this level would be, with Smokes and Juho. Smokes and Juho was genuine purgatory. The triple click in Smokes and the wave in Juho was the sole reason this took as long as it did. I don't know why I couldn't do it. I just couldn't. And the only way for me to truly sell how much I struggled with this section alone and how much pain it caused me, I'm just gonna read you my fails for 41 through 47. 41 times 293, 42 times 77, 43 times 19, 44 times 30, 45 times 25, 46 times 48, 47 times 202. I haven't bothered doing the math for exactly how many deaths that is, but that is a lot. While I think these parts are incredibly fun on their own, it is also a big part of my grief with this level. The reason I took a break from this level for 3 months back in November up until February was this section of the level, right? And towards the end, I did actually end up getting super consistent with the triple click. I got extremely good at it, but that was due to my persistence with alternate clicking. If you listen in my completion, that's going to come up. You're going to hear a bam bam. That is my spacebar. I did that wave with a spacebar click because I just thought it was going to help, which it did. Because the reason why I got a lot of questions asking about this was that when I did it with one hand, I was fully capable of doing it. I was capable of doing it with one hand. However, I would have to strain my wrist so much that it made the parts afterwards significantly harder because I was just not relaxed with my hand. So by adding a spacebar click, I would free up my right hand to do the rest of the parts without feeling completely just locked up from clicking as fast as I possibly could. Make sense? And while it wasn't as consistent to begin with, towards the end, I would barely ever die to 41. I barely died to 41 at all towards the end of the grind. And that was purely because I was just committed to the alternate clicking, which I think was the right choice in the end. Ju, however, never got better. Juho was so hard. My last week of playing Deimos from 0%, I died to 47 58 times. I died to 47 58 times in the last 7 days on a 3-minute long level. This wave I straight up cannot justify. As much as I praise and love this level, and as much as I would recommend it to absolutely everyone that I can, this part on its own is the reason I question whether or not I can actually recommend it, because my own experience and frustration with 47 and also seeing everyone else finding it extremely hard. I remember when the level first came out and Viper Venom beat the level, she said that 47 and Juho's part was the only reason the level took as long as it did for her, because it was just that much harder than everything else. It was just a genuine roadblock. It is a wall in the middle of the level, and I cannot state enough how genuinely hard this part is. Mind-numbing. The day before I beat Deimos, day 67 of returning to the level, my 3 best attempts, or my 3 best percentages were 75, 49 times 2, 47 times 10. Just to put into perspective how rough it was. And you're not really let off easy either once you pass Juho. Lyson and Lieb are 2 of my favorite parts of the level, but they became the quintessential butt clench part, because you would pass Juho and it was life or death. And for the longest time, it genuinely felt like everything was at stake when I passed 47%. I would feel so much pressure to be able to perform. That was the reason why I took the break, because I could not perform once I passed 47. I passed 47 28 times, I think, before I took my break, and only 5 of them managed to get to the break part. And while Lieb is my favorite gameplay in the whole level, dying to it never really felt fun because it is sandwiched between Juho and, as I said, the break. And the break is the true indicator of getting far in Deimos. You got Poke Chat, you got River, you got Alkali. They are the definition of don't fuck up, stay calm. You have just exited the first drop of the level. You are now in Focus Town Population U. And getting to the break was always the highlight of my grind. Any session I was able to reach the grind was an absolutely insane day, and it was a testament to my ability to beat the level as a whole. You are pushed into a difficult but honestly not very hard part relative to the rest of the level. But the thing that makes this part so grueling is that all the difficulty comes from the slow speed, low CPS gameplay that just feeds into your nerves. That shit eats away at your nerve control. You've just passed some of the hardest gameplay imaginable. Getting to 56%, in my opinion, is harder than Serix Never Clear. It is harder than Tartarus. Zeronium said 56% on Deimos is harder than Edge of Destiny. So when you get to 56%, you have passed a section of the level that on its own would be a top 40. You are thrown into a part where you're barely clicking, slow gameplay, insanely tight gaps. Getting to this part the first few times was genuinely euphoric, and it made my fingers tingle from the nerves of reaching it. But that would slowly fade, however, as I got there 20 times, 50 times, even 100 times, reaching the break a total of 114 times, a number I didn't even think was possible, might I add you, because originally I considered that getting to the break 50 times was unlucky. I doubled it. Not surprised. I died past 45% on Tartarus like 200 times. Can't really say I'm surprised, but you get what I mean. And you got Hybrid and Antares, which are like the gatekeepers of the ending. And what a shit show. Not because the parts are bad or unfun or anything like it, honestly. I really like Antares and I really like Hybrid. I think they're their parts are genuinely really fun. I just really sucked at them for some reason. Was it nerves? Possibly, because as I got to the end, where I had gotten there a bajillion times, I didn't really feel nerves with it anymore, and I just passed it every single time. But I died over 30 times, so 70 to 74. The swoop in the first click of the hybrid shit was an absolute pain up my ass. And then you have to do like a recorrectional click in it, because you can't just like fall down, click once and go up. You have to like bam, which made like a slight variance every single time you got there, which sometimes you had to release early, sometimes you had to release late, and it was just very hard to adjust to, and I found it very difficult. And then the 74 wave is probably the second hardest wave in the entire level behind Juho, and I just die there a lot. Surprised to no one. Everyone dies there a lot. It's really just a hard part, let's be real. And while Antares doesn't end at 74, passing that wave was what felt like the ending to me. I do, however, want to add that the 75% orb chain was absolutely fucking miserable, because it's a 2.2 casualty, and orb priority cucked it. I should not have died there 5 times. I did though, and it was really annoying. I died there yesterday. That was my best attempt on the day before I beat the level, because you just would hit the wrong orb. You would pass through the orb, get inside the orb you're supposed to hit, click, it would react to the orb before it. Great job, Rob Top. Really good decision on that one. And then you get to Sipix Box, Tacos, Parallax. They are the ending. And this part can only really be explained as awkward. I really like these parts. There are so many moments of just nothing that add to the feeling of numbness that you're already experiencing by being so far into the level, because you're not really moving your hand for extended periods of time, making the ending extremely weirdly difficult. While the parts themselves aren't hard, the pressure is just unbelievable. It's indescribable almost, because you're clicking and then you're lifting your hand, and then for a split second you're just like brrr, you're like gyrating from the nerves, the numbness, and it makes every single subsequent click so difficult. Most of my deaths there were just nerve deaths because of that, but it was also just a lack of confidence a lot of the time. I think these parts are confidence parts. You just have to nail your input every single click, because the clicks themselves aren't that hard, right? You just have to do them with intent. And that was the last thing that I really just nailed into my head, was that I can't just go play these parts and hope that I do good. I have to mean it. I have to play them with the intent that I know I can beat this level. And then when you pass the 88 wave and you get to the final stretch, you get to the duel, your vision kind of just like fades out, and it's just purely muscle memory. Dying to the duel 4 times, honestly, super exhausting. There were multiple times where I just genuinely thought I couldn't do it. I wasted my opportunities. And then passing the final spike was nothing short of euphoric. Deimos by Hybrid and More, a top 20 in 2025, and honestly, in retrospect, a grand delusion that should have been too much for me to actually conquer. But here I am, and I'm proud to present to you the hardest demon I've ever beaten. As we end this video, I just want to give a quick shout out to my friends who were really supportive throughout this grind, specifically Zeronia, Malia, and Tim. They were there while I was bitching about this level for such a long time. But yeah, super happy to have this done. Don't want to drag it out any further. I've already spoken about my experience. But again, thank you so much for the support. Thank you for all of you who have watched the streams. I'm terribly sorry that I didn't beat it on stream, but I have a curse with 3-minute levels. We're going to be back with streams immediately, and we're going to be doing more fun stuff, and I can't wait to play new levels. So I'll see you guys then. Thank you for watching. Thank you for making my day better. Hoping yours a little bit better too. Eat your insta, stay healthy, stay hydrated, and I'll see you guys later.